Hi, Sarah.
Hey.
You ready to interview?
Yeah.
Okay. When did you decide you wanted to go to college?
Pretty much straight out the womb. Um, uh, Probably right when I started school. I don't think college was never like a hope for me. I'm pretty sure I wanted to go to college since like I rolled up in kindergarten.
How many schools did you apply to?
3. Not all of them were at once. Some of them were like later on.
Do you feel you applied to enough schools?
I do and I don't. I think there's like never such thing as like enough. I think it's all based on where you want to go and what you're trying to shoot for. I'd say at least apply for 2 because you want like your primary school, the one you're like aiming for, but then you also want like a backup plan in case that doesn't like come through. I wouldn't apply to like 80 of them though because the application fees can mount up and there's truthfully no point in applying to somewhere you don't want to go, so I wouldn't waste the time or effort.
Good point. Did you apply for scholarships?
I applied for at least 10 every week. I held a job where like in my spare time I could do schoolwork or something like that. So in those like work hours and even at home I would sit and go online. I really recommend Fast Web Scholarship for anyone that's looking. And I would apply to like 10 or more each and every day a
And
week.
we'll link that down below for that website. How many did you actually get for scholarships?
About 2 or 3. Um, and it wasn't like for lack of me trying. I had like a 4.6 GPA when I left high school. I had over 300 voluntary hours and I did extracurricular activities, took a language, all that fun stuff. But I feel like a majority of scholarships go to like athletes or just maybe went to like other people who are more in need than I was. But it was rough. I applied to well over 200 scholarships for sure. I'd say I went as far as to apply for over 500 and only got 2 or 3.
What could you have done that could have helped you get more scholarships, do you think?
I think the only thing I didn't do was play a sport. Truthfully, like I sought help from like the guidance office. I, talked to my individual schools of choice. I did everything right. I had the voluntary hours, the grades, the extracurriculars, all of it. I just didn't play a sport.
Was your financial aid office at your first choice helpful in finding funding to pay for college?
What was originally my top choice, and not at all. So I'd recommend that anybody going to college definitely sit down and talk with the financial aid at the place. Don't call and ask questions because a lot of times you'll get student helpers or like I feel like a lot of times over the phone it's easier to like brush questions off or like give incomplete answers. But if you sit down and like have a discussion, they can hand you like physical papers on your options, and it kind of just gives you a feel for what they're like in the office.
Okay. And that particular first choice wasn't helpful at all. They weren't directing where to go towards for student loans. They weren't directing where exactly to go for extra funding.
No, they kind of just talked to me about their payment plans and like the federal Parent Plus loan.
Yeah, so most colleges, the financial aids offices are really helpful and they will help you find the funds to go to their school because they want you to be there. They want you to get your education.
Yeah, the one I go to now is amazing, so definitely sit down.
Um, are you at your top choice school now? And if not, why? Why or why not?
It's kind of a loaded question for me because I had a top choice school, and I really don't anymore because that didn't quite pan out. So right now I'm at the place that I know is best for me right now, like financial wise and just location wise. But I don't really know where my top choice school is. I mean, I'm happy where I am, but it's not necessarily where I want to stay, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess no, because I don't have a top choice yet.
Okay. Room to grow. Did high school prepare you at all for college?
I'm gonna go with a no. For starters, I don't think my state's educational system is the best. I've lived in like 3 different states, and I think this by far is like just the farthest behind in everything. They definitely don't give you enough homework. In college, your classes are usually about 3 credit hours each. And they're going to tell you that for every 3 credit hours, you need at least 3 hours worth of study time. So, like, my biology class is 3 credit hours, so I need about 9 hours of studying. I usually bump it up to 10. And you can, like, roll your eyes and say that's not true. I never studied in high school, actually. I never had to. I didn't have homework. The material wasn't really hard. They weren't really pushing me to do anything. So, here I am in college studying for the first time in my entire life.
Yeah. There's kids with no homework in schools, and it starts early. It starts actually in the elementary schools. So the no homework does not help at all with that. Okay. What could specific people in the high school have done to help you prepare more for college, like your teachers?
I feel like some of my teachers had their hands tied a little bit just by the educational system that I'm in. But in short, I think that not just for me, but for everyone, I think teachers need to go to the bottom tier of the class. Like, those kids who are, like, just barely scraping by with the D's and the F's and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think what truly makes not even just, like, a teacher great or a student great, but, like, a whole school great is to take that bottom tier and bring them up to the top level. Like, I was a top level student. I was in the top 8% of my graduating class. So I don't think there's necessarily anything they could have done for me other than maybe giving me a lot more homework to prep me for the study time needed for college. But I think that as a whole for everyone, they need to focus on that bottom percentile and just really drive home what they're trying to teach in class.
Figure out how they learn best, maybe. Mm-hmm. What about the counselors at the school?
Okay, so at the beginning of my senior year, they did this nifty little thing where they call you in and they're like, let's play a game. Are you going to graduate? And for me, the answer was, yeah, you have all the credits you need, so you can... I feel like your kids just multiply constantly.
I get more every day, apparently.
Anyways, right, we did this thing where they're like, are you going to graduate? So, I feel like, in addition to doing that your senior year, doing, like, the credit check, making sure that you have all the requirements, I think they need to add a meeting in during the last, like, semester of your junior year.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I think they should sit you down and say, okay, what is it you want to be doing? Whether that's, like, college, entering the workforce, going military, whatever. What is it you want to be doing? And from there, they could kind of show you, like, college brochures. They could start showing you some scholarship options. Or even, like, places you can get jobs, like temp agencies that can help you find temporary work to hold you over until, like, you get your licensing in whatever field. There's a million and one things they could show you during that meeting your junior year. But if guidance counselors want to help prepare you for college, I think they need to do a meeting then. Because your junior year is the point where, like, okay, it's time to apply for scholarships. It's time to tour colleges. It's time to do this. You can't do any of that your senior year because it's already too late. You got application deadlines everywhere.
Yeah, so they should start doing that probably the third term and say, okay, you know, do you want to go to college?
It's third quarter, but in high school it goes by semester.
Okay. So, do you want to go to college? Yeah, what do you want to go for? Oh, I want to go to be a doctor. Okay, well, here's some med schools, or we can help you find some med schools to go to be a doctor. This is how much it's going to cost. Let's talk about, you know, scholarships. These are scholarships that you can apply to and where to go. Mm-hmm. And what about school officials, like the principals or the Board of Ed and all those fun people?
Okay, I think, for the record, my principal was awesome, and I think he did literally everything he could. He provided so many resources, it was ridiculous. But if we're going to like the school board or like the state line, if we're going like up to those really big people who sit in like the really nice chairs,
yeah, the ones that play solitaire all day.
yeah,
those guys.
I was looking to play
what
solitaire.
could they do besides play solitaire to help you and the rest of the kids growing up?
Okay, so there's like this huge thing with state testing, right? It's like I've had state testing in every state. For the record, I've lived in Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Right? State testing was in all 3 states. But Florida is like, they're obsessed with state testing. Like, it's almost scary. It's like terrifying, stalkerish. It's bad. Like, I need a restraining order on state testing. It's like every month it's something else. And I get that like standardized testing is the only real way we have to measure like the whole no child left behind, is everyone meeting the same standard. That's great and all, but you don't need so many tests to do it. And I'm saying this because I feel like teachers aren't able to reach that lower tier that we talked about because they just don't have the damn time. They don't have it. It's such a crunch with like meeting deadlines. Like my geometry teacher, my sophomore year, the poor guy, I would go see him during like all my lunches because I'm god awful at math. It's disgusting. And he was like, I want to explain this to you guys more, but you have to come to me during lunch because we literally don't have time to explain it in class. And half the class wouldn't understand, but he literally didn't have time to stop. And I felt so bad, not only for him and for me, but for like everybody else that didn't understand. I was fortunate and I had the lunch period to spare, so I just went to see him then when we had the time to talk about it. But so many kids didn't do well on that because it was just such a crunch to get to this exam. You know how they say like it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Mm-hmm.
State testing teaches you like the total opposite. They're like, no, this is the destination. We're there next Thursday. What you do to get there, we don't care.
Yeah. Some teachers will even let you bring your lunch into their classroom as well.
Yeah, I've done
to
that.
go over that. So it'd be something to make an appointment with your teacher and say, hey, can I have lunch with you to go over this?
Not to detour, but like that's something I recommend too. I think that's something so many kids neglect is their teacher as a resource. Like we were just talking about what teachers can do. And like I had a chemistry teacher my sophomore year who like she went above and beyond, honestly. Like if you emailed her at like any time of day, she was there. She did appointments during lunch. She was happy to explain something 20 different ways until she found the one way you'd understand. So I'd use your teachers as a resource because so many people are so willing to say, I don't get it, but they don't actually use their free periods or free time to put any effort into it.
But definitely meet with the teachers before school, at the school in their classroom or the library, during your lunch period, or right after school again in their classroom or the library. Do not meet any teacher at Taco Bell, McDonald's, not even the public library, at school. Keep it at school.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Too many things going on. So keep it at school.
Keep it PG-13.
Yes. What is your major in college and why?
My major is nursing. I'm a nursing student, and for anyone thinking of being a nursing student, remember that study time I talked about? It's not fun. The workload is really significant, and I'm only in like the prereq stage of it because you spend like your first 2 years of college realistically doing the prereqs. So even nursing prereqs are rigorous. But I wanted to be a teacher for the first 12 years of my life, which was up until like 6th or 7th grade, and then I was like, you know what? I don't really know if that's for me. I don't know if this is what I want to do. So I started thinking about other things. And I kind of thought about the medical field a little bit up at that point because so much of my family was like completely invested in it. Half my aunts and uncles are nursing staff. It's wild. But I was about 15. I started working at an Annie Ann's up in a mall in Pennsylvania because you can work there at 15 if you get a work permit. Bless you. And she's so cute. And we had this main store, and then we had like a cart on the opposite end of the mall, and the main store would deliver pretzels to the cart for you to sell by yourself. So you were like totally alone in this little pretzel stand. They had like cameras to monitor you, but not much else.
Just you and the tricky pretzels.
Yeah, literally just me, some pretzels, the soda machine making all sorts of suspicious noises in the background. It was very creepy. And I had a grandmother and her grandchild approach me. And they were fine, we had casual conversation. I still remember what they ordered. It was cinnamon pretzels, for the record. And they were like, your grandmother was like counting change or something, and I just had like this gut feeling that something was off. Something was wrong. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was about, but like something was like out of balance in the universe. I don't know, the air wasn't shifting the right way or whatever. So I tell her to hang on. I tell her to give me a minute, and I have like no plan at this point. I'm just exiting the pretzel cart and walking around to the front. Don't know how, don't know why. She's still counting change happily. The grandchild's bouncing up and down. She has a pretzel. She's thrilled. So I go around to the side. I'm just about standing next to the grandmother when she just collapses. So I catch her as she's falling, and a security guard nearby obviously runs over to help me. We sit her down in a chair. I'm talking to the grandchild. I'm like, hey, do you have a parent? Do you have somebody else here? It's at the mall. It's an adult. And she was like, well, my mom's in the parking lot. So this like 11-year-old girl goes racing out to the parking lot to go get her mom. And I'm stuck with the security guard and the grandma. And at this point, the grandma is, conscious. She's okay. So I start asking her some questions. Name, age, any allergy medications or allergies otherwise, any pre-existing medical conditions. Because like I said, half my family's in the medical field. So I know these are all things that are important for paramedics to know once they arrive. Like, it makes it so much quicker if you can just tell them. Especially because if the grandmother had lost consciousness or something again and they had gotten there, I need to know what to tell them about who she is and what's going on. So, the grandchild comes back with the mom, and I'm asking her at this point, while the security guard's calling, like, proper authorities, hey, is it okay if I take some vitals really quick? My family's in the medical field. I just want to make sure that she's going to be stable and okay until they get here. And mom was like, you know what, if you can do it, go for it. So I'm monitoring her respiratory rate. I'm just taking her pulse, like the super basics. Don't need any equipment for it. I'm not doing like blood pressure or anything fancy. She had an elevated heart rate and some very uneven, like labored breathing going on. So, she was stable, obviously. But other than that, that was just what she was presenting with. So the paramedics get there, I kind of update them. The family's thanking me, and I think that was just, helping out in that entire situation. Just having that, like, randomly thrown into my lap at, like, 15, and knowing that I had, like, the intuition and that gut feeling to know something was off without her giving me any sort of pre-existing signs. No symptoms, no nothing. I was like, maybe nursing is just what I'm meant to do.
It's a calling.
Yeah, it's a calling. It's like nurses are born and not made.
And that was... just so the helicopter parents know, it was in rural Pennsylvania. There's nothing but tumbleweeds and trees and stuff in that area. It wasn't like a major city like Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. So it was really rural. So it's not a bad area to be in. For the little girl to run out to the parking lot by herself unattended.
Oh, yeah, she was totally fine.
So.
Besides, it was actually, the cart was right by the glass doors,
mm-hmm.
so I could see the girl running to the car. She wasn't going anywhere. She was fine.
So, but thank you so much for doing this with me.
Mm-hmm.
And good luck. You can go back to studying.
Thank you. I have flashcards over there calling my name.
Yes.